Okay, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Accommodation Show. So what happens when you open your business and your life to the cameras, knowing everything might be seen, but not everything could be understood? My guests today are Alex and Tom Ormerod, who are the founders of Luxico, a luxury short-term rental company serving some of the world's wealthiest and most demanding clients. Recently, they decided to let a film crew follow them through the chaos, the beauty, and the high-stakes reality of what that really looks like in a show called The $1 Billion Playground. Welcome to the show, folks.
Hey, Bart.
Hey, Bart.
It's a real pleasure to have you both on and to explore your journey with The $1 Billion Playground, how it was put together, what some of the trials and tribulations were of the show, what you enjoyed about it, what you didn't enjoy about it. But thank you so much for coming on and joining us.
Oh, we're pretty excited to be here. Thank you.
What an absolute treat. I knew that this was in the works. I didn't know a lot about what was happening. Alex, you hinted at it. You said you're doing some traveling. You're working on a TV show. But the ins and outs, I didn't know. And I think that what I love about it is how it's a real testament to what you can achieve with a bit of creativity, and achieving a TV show within the vacation rental and short-term rental space, from production through to delivery where we are right now. It's a really, really impressive feat to both of you. So congratulations.
Thanks.
What was it like getting on this journey?
Well, it's really funny because when we first, aired the teaser at your wonderful conference, Strive, earlier this year and launched it to industry, I had people queuing up to tell me how for years they've been saying, we should make a TV show. People wouldn't believe this stuff, and it made me laugh because I know that everybody has said that, but, ultimately that for us was that statement for us took actually 7 years to make that happen. Like, I think people have just sort of said it like, oh, we thought of that too. Like, we could have done it. And it's like, do you know what? It's so difficult to get a TV show up on air. And that was probably the biggest learning for us, which was, and where the fun came from is taking a concept and getting it to this point, which has been a very long and very challenging journey.
Give us a bit of background to Luxico and how the business was formed and how long ago, so that we can contextualize as well what that 7-year journey would look like.
Yeah, so the business is 12 and a half years old. We kicked off late 2013. More by accident than anything else, where we had a couple of properties that we were renting out ourselves and had a neighbour who had a beautiful home in St George's Road, Toorak, who barely used it and said, why don't you, see if anyone wants to stay at my place? And we really quickly worked out that there was a niche for very high-end accommodation. And I should state that her house was way, way nicer than our houses. So it kind of just gained momentum pretty quickly from there. And, we started out very much intending to shake up the short-term rental space, but very quickly got bogged down with compliance and turned into a property management business, which we've, subsequently moved away from and have re-engineered to move back to being what we ultimately set out to be, which was booking platform, or Australia's leading booking platform for luxury properties.
And about 8 years ago, we got this email. So the background to $1 Billion Playground, we got this email about 8 years ago where it was one of those Dear Mr. Thomas emails. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is a scam or something like that. But it was a director out of the US, and there was a invitation to go and to participate, to co-host on a show in the US. And it was an audition. And they told me there were a whole lot of people coming across to the US to audition to a show. And so I said, we just didn't believe it. It was all a bit sketchy. But I said, look, if you put me on a flight on this day, I'll come across. And ultimately I went across, and there was an audition under the Hollywood sign. So we've still got pictures of this. And the idea of this TV concept was that it was called Stay Here. It was on Netflix, and it was really about improving and renovating Airbnb homes. I didn't get that gig. They gave it to someone else, which was really annoying. But we came home and we thought, you know what? Why don't we try and make our own show? That really started, that was the seed to starting the idea behind $1 Billion Playground.
And that initial opportunity opened up connections with producers, because when Tom was auditioning in LA, he got talking to the producer of that show about what our business is all about. And they sort of said, that's a totally different, concept that really has legs on its own merit, and put us in touch with a couple of people locally. So we went on a bit of a journey, and that took a while as well to find the right producer, who we, eventually were lucky enough to land upon Ben Davies from Rondi, who do Bondi Rescue and a whole lot of other, reality format TV, who took what was really a fledgling idea and turned it into a fully fledged concept and took it to market to sell.
Yeah, I love it. Look, I'm going to rewind just a tiny bit because I'm curious about the relationship between you two and how that fits in with Luxico as a brand. I think it's quite something to have to work as a couple, as a team in a business. How does the work, or how does the labor get split up at Luxico between the two of you?
I think that it's really important to have clearly defined roles, and I've spoken to other people that work as husband and wife teams, and we often say that our biggest achievement in business is remaining married, because it is a lot, and we do have to make sure we have some dinner table conversation that doesn't simply revolve around Luxico and work. But we ultimately have quite different roles in the businesses. Tom is the listing growth guy. He's a listing machine. His background is marketing and sales within the real estate sector, and I run the business. So I run the operational side of the business. My focus is more on bookings and guest experiences, but I have to deal with all of the nasty admin stuff too.
Yeah, right. So Tom, for you, you've got that eye to detail, kind of spotting the right properties, understanding the owners as well, because that was a big part of the show, is working with your owners to get them to open up their properties and let them be on their show. It's not just, hey, we've got a listing on our books and we can just turn up with camera crew and get going.
That's right. I mean, it's really a two-way conversation where, they're deciding, whether they want to do this, but we're also looking at that homeowner and working out whether we can work with that person. There's good money in renting out your home, but as you know, it's difficult. There are challenges, and you're trying to work out how you're going to work together when things don't go the way that you expect, because at some point there's going to be a hiccup. So how are they going to behave, and how are they going to behave to the team, to make sure that you can keep all your staff? So yes, I'm in the car constantly. I'm up and down. I was on the Pacific Highway for 4 days last week, just talking to homeowners and trying to get an appreciation of what they're trying to achieve, what their expectations are, and really does that fit within our model?
Yeah. Because am I right in saying that a lot of these homeowners, having a very, I guess, expensive property, you don't necessarily need to be making money or extra money on the side from the property? Or are these properties sort of like investments where they actually do need to be cash positive to sustain themselves? What is the kind of typical avatar of a homeowner look like?
So a lot of the homeowners don't need to rent out their properties, but they've come from a place where they've made a lot of money. Like some of them, I met a homeowner last week that he's sold his business for 400 million. He did not need to rent out that home, but the idea that it would be vacant is something that they just can't accept. They want to utilize that asset. They don't want a lazy asset doing nothing, and they want, people to enjoy the home. And very much, the idea is about, there's a bit of ego there about how much they're achieving for their property as well. So that's very much one of the profile of a homeowner. But we have other homeowners that, yes, they've got a mortgage, they need to achieve a certain rent and yield over the year. So we have that conversation and try and figure out, where do you sit? What do you want to achieve? And it impacts a little bit the rates, the length of stays that we accept as well, and the service that's provided.
And whereabouts in Australia is it easiest to find these luxury properties? Is it there an even divide across the country, or I know that Billion Dollar Playground was filmed in New South Wales. Really incredible skylines, and that you can work with out that way. In terms of the business, in terms of what's available, where is the stock of these properties?
So it's in all of those locations, we focus on the cities and then on regional locations where affluent people stay. So Gold Coast, Byron Bay, Noosa, Whitsundays, etc. But the cities, the people come to stay in the cities might be staying there for leisure. They might also be coming to stay for events, or they might be relocating and they want a $20 million house, that's close to in the eastern suburbs in Sydney. So all of those locations are places that people want to stay. So we're basically bringing on stock where we think that we're going to have the demand.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so Tom, you're out there scouring the properties, finding the homeowners. We'll talk about the guests in a second. Whilst Alex, you're out there looking after the operations. So can you quantify for people what that actually means?
Well, I run the business, so the buck stops with me. So my job is really chief problem solver across all aspects of the business. So I'm driving everyone to meet the business KPIs. That can involve operational oversight, systems operations. I spend a lot of my time on marketing and technology development. Tech dev is a big part of our business because at Standalone Platform, we own our own proprietary technology that's continually being built out. We're integrating with a number of PMS systems at the moment so that we can onboard product faster. And we've got a wait list of property management companies that want to onboard product with us. So that takes up a pretty big chunk of my time. But we're really lucky that we've got some fantastic people that work within the business and can autonomously manage the departments that they oversee.
Yeah, awesome. So going back to the show, in the show, we see different groups of guests coming to stay at these incredible properties. They're mind blowing. Some of them are literally just stunning. And I think that for me, the great thing is I know that Australia has that to deliver. So I think it's a real showpiece for how great Australia actually is. And I think that the tourism board should be talking to you guys and saying, hey, this is what we have. This is why people should come and visit us. But what I wanted to ask was, obviously for the show, you've got these experiences, all this, 2-3 days in the property. I assume that not every single stay is put together in the same way, that there's going to be two really good looking chefs, a whole crew of people looking after them. How often does that kind of experience happen within Luxico versus we're just going to stay at the place and look after ourselves?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Luxico's base offering is access to Australia's best villas. We're marketing a curated collection of amazing properties that have been vetted, to ensure that our guests will be happy with them. We want the kind of our base premise is that we want our guests to feel that they would be happy in the worst property in our portfolio. So that's kind of the benchmark that we work from when we're onboarding homes. We have a number of, or 2 or 3 different membership options that allow guests to upgrade. So there's a membership option to Stay Beautiful, where it's a single stay membership upgrade. It gets them access to their own face-to-face personal concierge who goes in and provisions the home with all Luxico amenities, and they help to pre-plan the trip. All guests, I should say, do get pre-planning support, but when you upgrade to that first membership tier, you're getting that in person. Whereas our Stay Exclusive membership is the next tier up, and that's for people that want more of the all-inclusive in-home services and experiences. So it's more curated. That's where you're providing access to in-home staffing options as an upgrade, as well as curated bespoke experiences, which is what you're seeing in the show. So that for us is probably our kind of more of the higher end VIP market. Most people would come in, they would upgrade into one of the 2 membership tiers. If they upgrade into the top membership tier, they're usually adding staff on a kind of needs basis, but there is an option for an all-inclusive full staffing package that some of our guests take up. But that's very much the sort of top 5 to 10% who are staying with us. So that, what you're seeing on the show is really at the pointy end of the service.
Yeah, and so how did you guys go about finding those groups of people? So how many groups of people were there in the end for the series?
So there were 4 properties and 4 groups of guests. So there was a bit of a task in firstly getting approval to film at the properties and getting permission from those guests to be filmed as well. They were all paying guests under normal sort of paid circumstances. So, that was very challenging from a filming perspective to match those up. Particularly given we also had to make sure that, we were showing a diverse cross-section of guests and the right properties in the show.
Yeah, right. Because obviously you're matching up a whole bunch of different things. So you're matching up those guests, you're matching up the properties as well, because they're looking for a stay, and then making sure that it works within all your production schedules at the same time. What kind of challenges were you guys facing?
Oh, there's some great ones. I mean, one of the ones that probably no one knows was that behind the scenes, one of the properties, probably one of the greatest challenges was we hadn't had the approval from a homeowner to sign. They'd sort of in principle agreed, but actually hadn't signed the document until about 48 hours before the filming started. So the great team at Rondi had actually booked, all the hotels in the town. I'm not going to say which one it was, but they basically had their trucks filled with cameras. They had their crew en route to hotels, the whole lot. And the deal still hadn't been signed. So I had, Ben Davies at Rodney being very patient with me, trying to put it all together at the last minute. And it really made us think about how important that relationship was when you are going to work with a producer, because it can go terribly wrong. And he really was incredibly good and patient while we put it all together. And of course, at the final moment, things sort of fell into place. But it was a bit scary there for a while.
So thinking about that, maybe I'm gonna nail it, but there's the first episode with the dog that turns up, and the dog's not meant to be there. I mean, that was a real thing. That wasn't something that was created just for TV.
Everything's a real thing, but I have this question all the time, like how much of it's contrived, and absolutely none of it was pre-planned. Tom and I weren't allowed to watch what was going on. We weren't told what was going on. You see phone calls from the staff to me. In some of those cases, I'm literally standing outside on our back veranda, and I've locked our 6-year-old inside, and she's up against the window screaming, and I'm, having this impromptu phone call because I didn't get any heads up when I was going to get a phone call. So I'm trying to do the school run, and the phone's ringing, and I can see the name on the phone, and I know that I have to answer it because they're being filmed. So I'm literally hiding from my kids whilst trying to take these calls and sound really professional at the same time. That everything that was happening, we didn't know what was going on until we were told. What you're hearing when I'm talking to a staff member is completely off the cuff because I didn't know I was going to get that phone call, and I didn't know what was going on. So I won't throw a spoiler alert out there for anyone who hasn't seen the show, but at the end of the first or second episode, there's some stuff going down and some real issues with a couple of the team members. And when I get that phone call to tell me what's going on, I had no idea and had to really come up with a solution myself. So everything that happens really happened. The dog thing, that actually happens all the time. I wasn't surprised by that one because it's a really common issue, and the team were able to deal with it anyway. But yeah, you never know, and anyone working in this industry will appreciate this, but you never know what's going to come up in a guest stay. You do your best to plan for it, but at the end of the day, they have their own plans, and, holidays are impromptu. So things come up on the fly.
It's funny, but because even the team members asked me, they thought that, the person that may have walked out was a plant. And I said, of course it's not. Why would we want to see that? We've never seen that in something like 11,000 stays. We've never seen anybody walk out during the stay as a head concierge.
So there's the spoiler alert that I was avoiding talking about. Well done.
I'm assuming it's all good. It's all good. If it's in fully enough, I'll
edit that out.
Anyway.
Don't worry. Totally screwed your show. Sorry, Bart.
No, that's incredible. And look, Alex, I was going to go down there anyway because I'm one of the things we did see, especially towards the start or throughout the series, was a lot of change in management, and that was a theme that comes up throughout the series. Is those decisions around managers and who's in charge, and it's a really fascinating part of the show because it gives you people's real insights into what they're thinking and what they're feeling, and having to work as a team, but with those changes. And then there's maybe we don't give too much away, but those changes, I imagine they would have been relatively challenging for you, but also from a viewer's perspective, it really felt like, oh, they're just doing this for TV. Let's just keep on changing things up and putting things under pressure, rather than just having everything run absolutely smooth.
So yeah, I have actually had that comment, and I just was having to, when I was getting those phone calls, I really was having to think on the fly. So as Tom's already now outed, we have a team member who leaves. We went into this, exercise thinking we had a really strong team leader who would be responsible for the actions of the entire team right through to the fourth stay, and that we would keep the team, the status quo right through each stay. It didn't happen like that. He chose to leave. That really threw us. People suggesting that was staged is ridiculous. Like, why would we want that portrayed to an international audience, that we would have someone walk out? Like, our initial reaction to that was like, what a kick in the guts. That just makes us look silly. So, I had to think on the fly, and I appointed, Jasmine to step in, not because she had the most experience within Luxico, but her CV, she has an enormous amount of experience managing really big teams. And I felt that she was the most mature and experienced person within that team structure to be able to motivate and manage people. That's what it came down to, not knowing, the specifics around the concierge role, but I needed someone who could actually manage people and bring things together. There is another change, further down the track, as I state, it's a temporary one. It's giving someone an opportunity to step up who's asked for that opportunity. And in real life, that's what I would typically do. Teams change for every single stay. It's actually very unusual to have the same group of people working across multiple stays, particularly consecutively. So it's important that they can adapt and change to, adapt to changes in leadership and adapt to changes within the team, because it does happen all the time. People are not available 24/7 ongoing, and that's just how it works. And it did, I suppose, mix it up and make it a little bit interesting, but ultimately I actually think that the performance of the team in that last stay would have been no different irrespective of who was leading it, because ultimately that group of people had by that time worked together for long enough that they kind of knew each other's strengths and weaknesses, and really pulled it together more as a team, possibly more so than the leadership involved at the time.
Yeah, and you've got to think that
What
the
did that
TV
extra level
element
of
is that
stress?
they're all there together. The stay is over 3 days, which is, it comes down to what, about a 40-minute episode. So, the thing that's great for TV is the drama, but they're doing a great job right through that stay. And the tension of TV and the network is to provide, the craziest thing, but there've so many other great things that have happened on that stay that are, that have gone really well, that they don't really show, that are probably not quite so interesting. So they want to focus on the drama, and which is the tension of doing a reality TV show, is we're obviously wanting to promote the business and the service, and then the networks wanting to show drama, and you're trying to find that really nice balance through, a producer. So that's what that's the tension of doing this.
The anxiety around those changes and that conflict. So there's two things. One is, maybe I'm hearing you say it wasn't as big as what it was really made out to be, because there's lots of great things happening anyway. But then on the other hand, because that it's all being shown on television and really exposing potential issues within the business or within a stay, was that really conscious? As you guys are filming, was there extra conversations between you two saying, hey, are we doing the right thing here? Was it a lot more stressful?
Yeah, well, we hadn't done anything like this before. We're new to reality TV. So you expect the worst when you're told something. So we're very lucky in that we had a great executive producer in Dave Emery at Rondi, to sort of communicate what was happening. But we didn't want to come across as faulty towers, but if it happened, it happened. And that's one of the things that you've just got to accept if you sign up to something like this.
To me, that sounds terrifying as a business owner, to kind of open up the curtains to the business, right? Like, you're really exposing yourself and your family, like maybe not directly, but sort of through everything that you're doing, and putting it out there for everybody to see, and to kind of almost openly be critical as well of how you do things and how you appear on TV and that sort of thing. What kind of fears were you going through as you're doing that?
I think that in the moment, there was no time to second guess what was going on, and really no opportunity to either. It's not like I had a lot of opportunity to go away and think about what the best move was before making a decision. Most of the time, those decisions were made whilst filming was going on. So I had to, think on the fly. The most difficult thing, I think, was like we just didn't know how it would be received. We didn't know what, how the final edit would portray us or the business. You always worry about putting yourself out into the public domain. I actually think it was more difficult for the staff. They're all doing it for different reasons. Some of them are doing it for fun. Others have aspirations to build, strong online profiles around their particular business interests. And, people can be really scathing. And I think, that's challenging, particularly for the team who are younger and probably care more about what other people think than Tom and I do personally. We obviously, had concern for how the business would be portrayed, but in hindsight now, the fallout for us has been making sure that the staff feel like they are supported and that, they don't take anything negative that's written about them online too seriously, because we, would hate for that to impact them personally.
And is there any sort of training or coaching that kind of comes with that? Because the reality TV format has been around for a long time now, and seen kind of a lot of different impact on people that are part of those shows. Is there any sort of preparation that's done before or afterwards with the team and even yourselves to get yourselves in the right space for, hey, this is coming out, this is the best case scenario, the worst case scenario, and how to become mindful within all those comments that are coming out about you personally?
Yeah, I talked to all of them about what they were hoping to achieve from it, and have had and Tom and I have both had conversations with them all following after filming to try and help them to get the most out of the experience. They did receive not training as such, but they were screened by the production company to ensure that they were suitable candidates for reality TV, and they were provided with counselling support throughout as well, because it is a really big thing. They're being followed with cameras from the minute they wake up till the minute they go to bed, and they were really living in a house of mirrors, particularly through that first day where they were completely paranoid about how they were being portrayed. And I had to have a couple of conversations with them as a group and say, no one's portraying anyone as anything at the moment. They are just watching what you were doing. So if you do something or you say something, that's on you. So just be your authentic selves, so that, you live with no regrets at the end of this. You don't feel that you need to be goaded into saying or doing anything that's outside who you are as a person or the realm of your job. And to be fair, there was minimal production intervention. They were really just being followed by cameras throughout the day, but they were working very, very long days. They were on 12 to 16 hours a day, and then they'd finally, the stay would end and the crew would get a couple of days off, but the staff would actually spend their time off prepping for the next stay. So you think about the chefs going out there, they're having to plan the next menus. They're they're going through and arranging to pre-purchase all of the food provisionings, the butlers doing the drinks provisionings, the concierges are pre-planning and checking off that they've got the experiences locked in. So there was so little downtime over a 5 to 6 week filming period that by the end of it, they were.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that the length of time that it took to film, so 5 or 6 weeks, really intense. What does the crew look like? How many people were in the home at any one time? So you'd have all the guests, you'd have the staff, then you'd have crew as well supporting.
So the crew were typically off-site or in a production area, which would possibly be the garage, or they would rent an apartment or a house nearby for the crew to be in. Usually it was they were set up in a garage. It's a really miserable life being part of the production crew. You're sitting in this case in a boiling hot garage surrounded by equipment. Inside the actual house, there were 5 static cameras set up on pedestals that were just capturing what was going on. All of the staff were mic'd up, and a couple of the lead guests were mic'd up, so they were capturing all of the audio. And then there were 3 or 4 cameramen who were also then roving around actually following the action where it was as well. And then in addition to that, you had cameras in each of their cars so that you see them driving. They had nowhere to hide. It was crazy.
Well, apart from the bathroom, there was nothing in the bedrooms or bathroom.
You still had audio on in the bathroom. Yeah. I remember actually going, I really need the bathroom. How do I turn this off?
I love it. Alex, tell me about that. So, of course, your staff are there, and then from a personal point of view, as a leader, you come in to do the reviews after each stay. I thought it was really interesting because the way you handle those reviews changed through each one. I think that there was different learnings that you actually had, but also like what was that feeling sort of walking in and sitting down at that table? Was it like, were your nerves like a 20 out of 10, or were you pretty like, no, actually I've got this under control because I'm the one leading the way here?
The first one, I just didn't know what to expect, and so that was a bit scary, and I hadn't really been on camera at that point as well. So that first review was kind of my debut in front of the camera, although the staff have all subsequently told me that they were absolutely terrified coming into that first review. They were so scared of me, which is kind of entertaining. And in fact, Tom actually had someone come up to him at the gym the other day and say, "Oh, I've seen you on TV and I really like your show, but your wife's really scary." To which I think you said, "Yeah, she is." So that's interesting as well. I think they were actually more nervous than I was. I found it easier, going into the following stays because I had a better grasp on it, and we also improved the guest review process as well throughout the series, where rather than capturing that information in writing, I actually sat down with the guests as after they'd checked out to capture that to capture that review feedback face to face, which I found was really beneficial because I was able to then delve a bit deeper into where some of their feedback was coming from. So I feel like in the last couple of stays that the feedback is a bit more detailed and specific, and I was able to ask questions of the staff that really delved into that as well.
Isn't that a real testament to being an hospitality operator though? Like, you can do as many online forms as you want, but if you actually sit down with the guests and actually get some real feedback face to face, you can get so much more out of it and have a lot more meaning to really structure what you're actually doing next. And it's fascinating that you're sharing that between different reviews you pick that up. You're like, actually I can do better and I can get more information, which is going to be more useful to the team and to the business as a whole.
Well, it really depended a lot on how on the guest movements. So, for that first one, they had to rush off I think they had transportation booked and they had to rush off. So that opportunity wasn't there. So, I was speaking to people on the phone, and in one case, got email, had to send through questions so that they could respond in writing. But yeah, like hospitality is all about building relationships, right? So having the opportunity to build rapport with those guests definitely led to better quality feedback, which is, I think, I'm interested in your comment that you think my reviews changed in style a little bit from stay to stay. I can't wait till you see the last one, Bart. You'll have to tell me what you think.
Yeah, look, it's interesting because it's the nuance of it. I couldn't sit down and tell you exactly what those differences were, but it's just the approach and the feeling and the way that everybody's interacting. And it's interesting that even though the situation is quite contrived because there's a camera there, there's a camera crew, it's all staged in a way, but there's a lot of truth that actually comes out of it, and a lot of those emotions and a lot of those little micro expressions that you generally don't pick up or you might not see in a meeting whilst you're sitting at the table, but then after you're like, oh, actually there was a lot more meaning there that can actually be shown through a camera. One of the best parts of this show is that it was a really cool showcase for the vacation rental stroke short-term rental industry as a whole. Of course, we're dealing with luxury escapes or luxury stays, and not every stay is going to be like that. However, it does show the hospitality that's required within this industry segment. And it really shows as well how much short-term rentals have moved and changed since 20 years ago to where they are as a business right now. I'd love to hear your thoughts about what you think a show like this means for the industry category as a whole.
I think the great thing about $1 Billion Playground, it put a spotlight on the amazing people that work within category. And I think a lot of the time, people that work in the category just underappreciate it. People, particularly the homeowners and to a lesser extent the guests, they don't know what's involved in delivering that service. Unless you've done Airbnb yourself, you really don't know the amount of time that actually goes into every small detail and that love and hospitality. And I hope that it really gives a greater level of appreciation to short stay managers and their staff. And likewise, I hope it, from an international point of view, really puts, showcases Australian hospitality and how it is a little bit different from the rest of the world. It's more approachable, it's fun. We don't take ourselves too seriously. Ultimately, I hope it brings, a few more people over here from the places that it's being broadcast in.
Yeah, and I think that's a real sort of a cherry on top of the cake is showcasing Australia. I love Australia. I love traveling all over the world, and it kind of fits within that. But actually really showcasing the best of the best and what you can actually get out here and the level of service and even the hospitality by the team. Like, they did such a great job of making people feel incredibly welcome. And it kind of comes through in everything that they were doing, and probably in the reviews as well, is that yes, there were different issues, but I think consistently the hospitality was rated very, very highly.
Well, the reviews focus on, what could we do better as part of a continuous improvement process. But actually, when seeking feedback from these guests, all they had to say were really good things. Like when it came down to, what could we do better? It was always came with the disclaimer that, well, look, it was so fantastic and ultimately flawless. But if there was one thing, it might have been this, or this came up, or, someone got my name wrong, we had to wait too long for our laundry, whatever it was, they would always reiterate that in the grand scheme of things was so minor, and that what they were taking away from the stay was an absolutely incredible memory. And, it was one of the penultimate travel experiences that they've had.
Amazing. Look, I'm going to finish here. What are your dreams for the show? What are your dreams for short-term rentals? And then what are your dreams for Luxico as a whole?
Well, we really hope that the show inspires other people working within the short-term rental category to elevate that guest experience and have us treated more like a professional category in our own right. As far as our aspirations for the show goes, we're excitedly planning a season 2 at the moment. It's not locked in yet, but that is hopefully going to be on the cards. And the show launches internationally in the UK on the BBC on the 7th of July. So we're really looking forward to seeing what comes out of that too.
I suppose the aspiration for the show that it airs in other locations, and ultimately, if it could become a format where there is $1 Billion Playground Korea and Hong Kong and all sorts of interesting places, that would be absolutely amazing. That would be the dream for the show.
And as far as our goals for Luxico is concerned, we're really excited to be now signing up property management partners, professional property management partners across Australia to onboard more show-stopping properties. So, looking forward to seeing the curated collection of amazing homes just get bigger and bigger to give luxury travellers more access.
Yeah. I really see like a partnership with Tourism Australia and you guys. I really feel that they should get behind this and get behind you guys and what you're doing and really showcasing the best of Australia across all of, not just Luxico, but across the whole industry. Is this is how good it is, and this is what we actually have to offer for tourists. And it doesn't even have to be luxury, right? It could be anywhere within the category. But folks, our time has come to an end. We like to keep these episodes relatively short because we know that people are driving around and from A to B, and want to kind of push you guys for the information as quick as we can. Now, ladies and gents, if you are tuned in on YouTube, then give us a subscribe, give us a thumbs up, leave your comments below. I know that we'll get Alex and Tom looking at your messages and answering them if you've got any questions that we haven't answered on here. If you're listening on Apple, on Spotify, then leave some reviews, subscribe to the show as well. Tom and Alex, you guys are an absolute powerhouse for the industry. I find it almost funny to hear that feedback about you potentially being scary, Alex, because I know that once we've got to know each other, that you're somebody that's incredibly helpful and caring and empathetic of people around you. So it's cool to see those both sides and to get to know you a bit better. Tom, absolutely wonderful to hear all of your stories and your journey, and how your journey potentially being on that show over on a competing network just didn't happen, and then it inspired you guys to follow this journey. So you guys are an incredible team, a lot to aspire to. I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing season 2 and working with you guys in the future. I wish you both a very, very good day.
Thanks so much, Bart.
Thanks for having us.
And don't forget to jump onto luxico.com or .com.au? Which one is it? .com.au and get your properties listed on there. Or if you want to go and have a stay with these folks, that's where you would start. And I'm sure that you can find Tom and Alex on the LinkedIn and socials as well. Take care. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks, bye.
Thanks.